What's up fellow nerds, I'm your host Dr. McKay and welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be a breakdown of Anubis Mothership seen in Stargate SG-1 Season 6 and Season 7. To start off with the breakdown though, I will be covering the full history of the Goa'uld Anubis, and then I'll move on to the ship itself. And as always, I'll be covering all the specifications of the ship. But before we get started though, if you like the content, please like, comment and subscribe for more. Now with all that said though, let's go. To begin with, let's break down the full history of the Goa'uld Anubis. So during the first Goa'uld dynasty around 22,000 BC and 17,400 BC, after Apep killed Artok and became the new ruler of the Goa'uld dynasty, he would go on to establish a new system of ruling, making many Goa'ulds his underlords. One of these Goa'ulds was Anubis. Anubis began as a low-level underlord at the start of the first dynasty, but he quickly rose in power and stature as his many victories in battle and conquest earned him high praise and respect from Apep himself, but in turn gained envy and hatred from his fellow underlords. Unfazed by his fellow underlords' envy, Anubis' ambition grew greater, seeking more and more power. He eventually earned the full trust of Apep and became his most trusted and rewarded advisor, even being favoured over Ra, which was Apep's favourite son. But Anubis, ever seeking more power, sought to seize the throne from Apep himself, and so Anubis began to expose Apep to the unstable effects of the ancient healing device that was used to create the first sarcophagus, and in doing so Apep began to lose his mind. He eventually let slip to Anubis of a hidden cache of ancient weapons. Anubis, thrilled by this, sought out the ancient weapons and discovered 6 jewels that when combined powered a devastating weapon capable of destroying planets. Anubis, now confident in his plan to take power, decided to act. He betrayed and murdered Apep, removing Apep's symbiote and devoured it in front of the other underlords, and declared himself the new emperor of the Goa'uld. Anubis, confident in his taking of power, underestimated the loyalty of Apep's children and followers, mainly Ra, as Ra denounced Anubis' title and sought revenge for Anubis' betrayal of his father. Ra formed an alliance between his siblings and Apep followers to fight against Anubis. This civil war between Anubis and Ra lasted over 100 years, resulting in many destroyed star systems and legions of Unus warriors being slaughtered in brutal battles, resulting in low population of the Unus. The war was so devastating it almost saw the end of the Goa'uld themselves, as many Goa'uld would perish in this conflict. Eventually though, Ra's forces would gain the upper hand and overwhelm Anubis and defeat him. Anubis defeated, he was banished by Ra from the Goa'uld. Ra would then dismantle this superweapon, and to prevent another Anubis, formed the Council of System Lords and gave each System Lord one of the 6 ancient jewels, renaming them the Eyes. To keep them separate, he gave one eye to each new System Lord: Apophis, Osiris, Baal, Balor, Tiamat, and kept one for himself, knowing that the infighting between each Goa'uld would prevent anyone from having all 6. Anubis, now banished from the Goa'uld, went into hiding, and during the second Goa'uld dynasty between 14,000 BC and 3000 BC, he built back his forces in secret, and during the first Goa'uld conflict with the Asgard and the Furlings, Anubis saw an opportunity to rejoin the Goa'uld. He met with the Goa'uld High Council of System Lords and offered to destroy the Asgard, but in turn for his offer, he wanted leadership of all of the System Lords. Furious by this, Ra and the other System Lords waged another war against Anubis, this time to end Anubis' life. The war was swift as Anubis was outnumbered. Anubis, seeing his end near, in the final battle, he tricked Ra into believing that he was killed and fled. The Goa'uld, now believing Anubis is dead, left Anubis free to pursue a discovery he made during the war, when he discovered an ancient temple which held ancient research on ascension. Intrigued by this, he sought out any information he could find on ascension, and after many years and blending with a human from his Unus host, discovered information on Keb and travelled there. Once at Keb, he found the monastery and underwent the various tests by the rogue ancient Omodesala. Anubis, well aware of his research of ascension and the purity of heart and soul needed for ascension by Oma Desala, managed to trick Oma and passed all of her tests, and she concluded that Anubis was worthy of ascension, and began the process. During the ascension, Oma discovered the truth, realizing the pure evil of Anubis, and tried to stop the ascension by trying to descend him herself, but it was too late. She was unable to descend Anubis on her own. With Anubis now ascended, his evil nature immediately alerted the other ascended beings, and they were forced to intervene. However, they had become very frustrated by Oma Desala's repeated violations of the rule of non-interference. They chose to punish her by only partially descending Anubis, leaving him in a state of limbo between planes of existence. They stripped Anubis of most of the knowledge he obtained while he was briefly ascended, while leaving all of his knowledge he obtained as a Goa'uld. After this event, Anubis existed in energy form and was unable to interact with objects. This is until he learnt to possess hosts. He would then create a personal force field to contain himself, and over the next few thousand years, quietly in secret built up his power and forces, tapping into the vast knowledge of the ancients and using it to create more advanced technology. After the deaths of Apophis, Hera, and Kronos at the hands of the Tauri, he began to secretly attack the Goa'uld and take their forces, pitting the Goa'uld against each other. He would then bring in many Goa'uld underlords to serve him, and use his knowledge to bring new shield advancements that can withstand the Tolan iron cannon and the Asgard weapons. He proceeded to uncover Tok'ra spies and use ancient knowledge to extract information on Tok'ra bases and destroy them. And once he had enough power, he revealed himself to the System Lords via his emissary Osiris. At the meeting of the System Lords, he appointed a System Lord and began to target Earth. After several failed attempts to wipe Earth out, the Goa'uld Yu began to attack Anubis and draw his attention away from Earth. During this time, Anubis, confident with his new shields and weapons upgrades, he decided to challenge the Asgard, winning a swift and surprising victory against them, and in doing so captured Thor. But unaware of the Asgard's new O'Neill-class ship, this was the only conflict Anubis made against the Asgard. Anubis then turned his attention back to Earth to try again to destroy them, but again failed. Anubis, now wanting a decisive victory against his enemies, began to search for the 6 eyes for the superweapon he once had. He built a large new ship, his flagship, to be powered by these eyes. He eventually obtained all 6 and proceeded to destroy an entire fleet of Huttucks commanded by Lord Yu, and then go on to destroy Abydos. He then began to push back the Goa'uld forces and used the superweapon to overwhelm the other System Lords. Worried about Anubis becoming an all-powerful Goa'uld, the Tauri, with the help of the Tok'ra, would eventually disable the superweapon and, with the help of Baal, destroy the ship over Langara, Jonas's homeworld. Anubis escaping this battle, he fled and continued to use his ancient knowledge to advance his forces. Anubis, sensing the threat of the Jafar rebellion, began work on a new foot soldier, a super soldier, the Cold Warriors. These new super soldiers would begin to decimate the Jafar and turn many Goa'uld underlords to Anubis' side. He would then build another mothership and consolidate his forces. The Tauri, with the Tok'ra's help, would develop a weapon to fight against the Cold Warriors, and upon the Tauri discovering an ancient repository of knowledge and the possible location of the Lost City, Anubis turned his full attention and fleet against Earth. This, however, saw the complete destruction of his entire fleet in Earth orbit due to the drone's weapons in Antarctica, leaving Anubis drifting in space in his energy form. Anubis would eventually escape Earth and possess humans to continue to wage war against the Goa'uld, using Baal as a proxy. He would eventually make a play for the ancient weapon on Dakara to erase all life in the galaxy and start anew. But due to Daniel Jackson persuading Oma Desala to fight Anubis, Anubis would no longer be able to interact with the lower planes of existence, as he would be in an internal conflict with Oma, and thus ends the threat of Anubis. Quick sidebar, I'm not including Kalec here, as he was a clone with Anubis' DNA and memories, so not really Anubis. So there we go with the full history of Anubis, and with that covered, let's get into the breakdown of his mothership. As always, I'm going to start off with the size. So for Anubis' mothership, its length is 2,000 meters across with a width of also 2,000 meters across, as the ship is circular shaped in design. The height, however, is not given online, but I have worked it out to be around 420 meters high when folded closed, and upwards of 600 to 700 meters high with the superweapon deployed, but these are rough measurements and are not accurate. Up next, let's talk engines. For the engines of Anubis' mothership, we have two types, and just like the Goa'uld Huttak, the mothership utilizes a very powerful sublight drive that manipulates inertia and negates the forces of gravity, allowing the ship to move in any direction in space and atmosphere. This form of engine does not require any external directional engine thrusters. The second engine is the hyperdrive. This hyperdrive is of Goa'uld design with ancient knowledge upgrades to improve the speed of the drive, allowing Anubis to travel at least 5 times faster than the other Goa'uld in the galaxy. Now let's talk shields. So for the shields, the mothership has ancient knowledge upgrades that are far superior to the standard Huttak shields, being able to withstand almost all attacks, besides the ancient drone weapons, which can pass straight through them. The shields are of a dark orange-brown colour that form a bubble around the ship. The only two weaknesses the shields have are 1. Due to the size of the ship, there is enough space between the shield bubble and the ship's hull to allow a small craft to hyperspace jump past the shield and attack the hull directly. And the second weakness is when the ship's in a planet's atmosphere. This reduces the shield strength to only about 40% of maximum strength. This weakness allowed the combined forces of the System Lords to destroy the first mothership over Langara. Next, we'll talk about the weapons. So the weapons of the mothership consist of over 100 dual-barreled heavy plasma turrets that fire 2 staff-like orange plasma bolts. These cannons are extremely effective against other large ships like the Huttak, but lack the precise aim to battle small crafts like fighters. The mothership also uses a large heavy cannon for orbital bombardment, which has a higher yield of damage. And lastly, the last weapon Anubis' first mothership has is the superweapon. This superweapon is of ancient design and utilizes all 6 of the eyes, which are 6 ancient power crystals, that when brought together can produce enough energy for a planet-destroying superweapon. This weapon is housed in the dome of the ship at the top, and when deployed, the ship changes form. The superweapon has 2 modes of attack. The first one is similar to lightning bolts. These are fired from the spikes on top of the mothership that can arc from one ship to another and can fully destroy 2 or 3 Huttaks with one bolt. The second fire method is a planetary laser, concentrating the energy bolts into a single energy beam. This weapon can destroy a very large part of a planet's surface or even the entire planet, but we never get on-screen confirmation of this ability. Only the first on-screen Anubis mothership possessed this superweapon, as the superweapon only has one weakness, and that is the eye's power source, which brings us to the ship's power systems. The power systems of Anubis' mothership is not explained in detail, but there's enough to break it down. The main power of the ship comes from a large Naquadah reactor core that supplies power to the entire ship, possibly enhanced with ancient knowledge. This core can be augmented with the 6 Goa'uld eyes, increasing the output 10-fold, providing the main power to the superweapon. But when Colonel O'Neill and Samantha Carter blew up the core, destroying the eyes, Anubis tried to use Naquadah as a replacement power source, but it proved too unstable to power the superweapon and caused an explosion. The power core also powers shields, weapons, and engines. It's also possible that the mothership uses conventional Goa'uld power systems like the Huttak, utilizing control crystals for distribution, which was possibly what powered the ship after SG-1 destroyed the core. Next, let's talk about the ship's sensors and controls. Like with the Huttak, Anubis' mothership uses short-range, mid-range, and long-range sensors for scanning, with subspace communications systems for real-time interstellar communications. The ship is controlled via the Peltac from a single control console, usually by the first prime of Anubis. This console controls all the ship's functions except weapons, as the weapons are controlled by a secondary weapons console like the Hatak. Anubis' Peltac also has a secondary console for other ship's functions. This ship also contains many other rooms that contain ship's computers, like the one Daniel and Jonas used to find the superweapon's exhaust vents. Although not stated, I'd expect the ship to have all of the same features as the Hatak, with a main computer core and many other control consoles spread around the ship. Also to note, Anubis encoded his computers with ancient ciphers so that not anyone could access them. Next, let's talk fighters and bombers. So Anubis' mothership holds over 50 Goa'uld death gliders and over 50 Alkesh bombers, with many troop transport ships to deliver hundreds of Jafar to a planet's surface. All ships are held in bays within the ship itself, and I also expect the mothership to have many TAC cargo ships as well. And to wrap up the mothership systems, the mothership also has 20 transporter ring platforms, 5 for ship-to-ship and planet surface transportation, and 10 internal rings for moving around the ship. The mothership also has a large escape ship that Anubis used to escape the destruction of the first mothership. Next up, I want to discuss the ship's crew and compartments, starting off with the crew. So for the crew, we have Anubis himself as the commander of the ship. Next, his Jaffa First Prime Herak. Anubis' personal guard of Goa'uld warriors, many Jafar officers of different ranks, over 100 Jafar Death Glider pilots, and over 200 Alkesh crew, around 1,000 Jafar warriors and a couple hundred Goa'uld warriors, totaling over 1,500 crew for the ship. Now moving on to the ship's compartments. For starters, there's not many rooms shown on screen, so this is much speculation using the Hatak's layout. So we will start off with the ones we do know. So first we have the Peltac, or the bridge, for ship control. It also has a throne chair there for Anubis. Next we have a computer room where Daniel and Jonas access the ship's information. Next we have many ring rooms and cargo holds including an armory, holding cells for prisoners, and many corridors. And I think a Goa'uld science lab was seen on the show. The rooms that are speculation on my part would be a computer core, engine room, hangar bays, and the Jafar barracks. Not much else is shown with the interior of the ship in the show, but one can presume it contains all the same rooms as the Hatak, with many more. So during the breakdown, let's summarize on the ship. Anubis' mothership is the most advanced Goa'uld ship ever created and was the largest ship in its time. Its upgraded technology made it a force to be reckoned with. It's unclear on when it was built or how long it took to build, but only 2 ships were ever seen in the show, 3 if you include the alternate timeline where Baal used one. But this ship was so cool to see on screen, and it definitely gave Anubis that extra power factor and separated him from the rest of the Goa'uld. So there we have it then, my fellow nerds. That's all I wanted to cover in this breakdown, and I hope you all enjoyed the video. And if you did, please feel free to like, comment and subscribe. It really does mean a lot to me when you support my channel. I have been your host, Dr. McKay. Thank you all for watching this breakdown of Anubis' mothership and Anubis, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Cheers and goodbye, and have a good rest of your day. Bye.